Welcome, adventurers, back to another compelling episode of Character Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of individuals who exemplify strength, resilience, and unwavering dedication to personal growth. Today, we are thrilled to introduce a guest who embodies these qualities and more. Joining us is Derek Newborn, a fitness professional, sought-after speaker, and coach whose journey is nothing short of inspiring. Derek has faced profound challenges, including abandonment and a suicide attempt, but through it all, he has emerged stronger, taking full ownership of his life. His commitment to continual learning and his passion for helping others are evident in every aspect of his work. Prepare to be moved and motivated as Derek shares his story of transformation and his dedication to empowering others to take control of their own lives. This episode promises to be a powerful testament to the human spirit, and I can't wait for you to hear it. So without further ado, let's dive into the extraordinary journey of Derek Newborn on Character Talks. In Character Talks, we aim to unearth the hidden gems of human resilience, courage, and growth. We bring you tales of ordinary people who found themselves in extraordinary circumstances and emerged from the crucible of life forever changed. From tales of facing fear head-on, to serendipitous encounters that altered destinies, and from travels to distant lands that broadened horizons. To battles fought within, we believe that every experience holds the potential to shape us in profound ways. I'm Chris Christie, and this is Character Talks.
Just after it's been cut, and wade through the stream or maybe run through the river, even though you may get just a little bit wet. A bum bum sheeto, a bum bum sheeto. Wow, 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 wow. This is life.
All right. Well, Derek, let's dive in because I've been looking forward to this podcast. I don't know if I'm looking forward to it anymore because you told me it's 70 degrees and sunny down there and we're dealing with rain and everything up here in Maine. But Derek, welcome to Character Talks.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And so let's dive right in because I want to get into it because I know there's going to be a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge and some good experiences shared. So let's dive in. The first question I always ask everybody is, how do you define character?
Yeah. So I define character by the person you are when nobody is looking and when everything is going wrong. So your character is essentially connected to your value. And when I say value, so your value is what you stand on no matter what's going around. So that's that defines your character.
I love that. And I think once we get into what your word is, then I think that definition, will really truly come around. And when no one's looking, how are you? Yeah, I love that.
Who's that person? Yeah.
Yeah. Who is that person? So the other important thing that I like to do is to establish a little bit of a baseline and a little bit of a framework of who Derek is. And so could you give us a little bit of your background, maybe some of the struggles or experiences or adventures that you've gone through that have helped kind of shape who you are today? And then we'll dive into your word, because I think that's the important part about the mill is that we are all about getting people to experience more things, go on more adventures, because I think that's how we shape our characters, by those adventures and experiences. So I think it's important for people to kind of understand some of the experiences that you have, good or bad, and how they've kind of helped shape who you are today. And then we'll dive into your word.
Yeah. So really started out with early on in life, just experiencing a lot of trauma rooted in abandonment, all the way up through my early 20s, but also during that time being unaware of the amount of trauma that I was holding on to. And so that really set me up for a life of self-sabotage through my late 20s and 30s. And from that self-sabotage, again, not realizing where it was coming from, put me on a downward spiral into a really dark place of massive depression and even a suicide attempt. And then from that, I kind of had to start unpacking who I was as a human, which allowed me to discover the amount of trauma that I had. And then from there, I was able to rebuild into this man that I am now. And now I've seen that everything I went through, I was designed to go through to help other men avoid self-sabotage and the pitfalls that a lot of men deal with in the world today when it comes to insecurities or childhood trauma that they're too proud or too scared to address.
Yeah, and can we dive into self-sabotage
Oh yeah.
just a little more? Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people may go through it, but don't necessarily recognize it or don't identify with the fact that they are in fact doing that.
Mhm.
So what was that? When you were saying self-sabotage, what did that look like for you at the time?
So self-sabotage for me at the time was so my outer layer, I had a very successful fitness business. I was a full-time fitness model. I had a very successful relationship with my long-term girlfriend. But what I was doing was essentially doing a lot of lying, doing a lot of cheating, a lot of dishonesty, not only with my girlfriend, but my family and everybody close to me. And no matter, how much lying or cheating or attention I got, it never made me feel better. But yet for some reason I kept resorting to those type of behaviors. And so that we don't realize what we're self-sabotaging because when I was doing it, I always had a reason why I was doing it. I would attach it to social media or my girlfriend acting a certain way or my family or whatever. When in reality, I'm solely responsible for those actions. So that's actually self-sabotage, right? There's no one making me do it. And when we have unhealed trauma, it's hard for us to see that we're responsible for our actions.
Yeah,
So we continue on a downward spiral. I did this, and then we have shame from that. So now what usually happens is that we make a bigger mistake to cover up that one or to keep ourselves from facing what it is that we're actually dealing with way deep inside.
yeah, it's almost that martyr effect to it, to
Mhm.
an extent that you were doing that, but then you were justifying it because
Right.
you were doing this for other type thing, and which made it then you justified it to yourself that you are actually being the good person in the case. And
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
so when or what happened for you to kind of make that shift then to go from that to recognize, it's time for change? Because I can tell you the time that I to the day, I can tell you what the room smelled like, what it felt
Yeah.
like, the temperature of the room, who was in the room when I made the decision that for me, enough was enough. And I was rock bottom was not where I needed to reside for the rest of my life. What
Yeah.
was it? What was that time for you? What was it like?
Yeah, I was laying in my bed, and at that time, pretty much everybody had walked away from me. They'd had enough of all my craziness, and rightfully so. And I was laying in bed and just essentially like feeling sorry for myself, saying, "How could these people not be around? How could they not want me in their life or talk to me or speak to me or hang out with me or whatever?" And then it was like the hand of God or something came over me and told me that this is not what I was put on earth for. And at that moment, I realized that the common denominator of all my troubles in my life, the common denominator was me. So that meant I was responsible for everything up to that point, the good and the bad. But the great thing meant that I was responsible from that moment forward. So if I had that much power and for that part of my life to create all that sabotage, that same power can be used for the good. And I can actually create the exact man that I was designed to be from there. And from that moment, I just took back power. I didn't place blame anywhere. I accepted and acknowledged who I was, what I'd done, And then from there, that takes the power away from shame and guilt and all that stuff. So essentially, I was able to set myself free because there's nobody at that point could tell me that I didn't already know about myself. So it was like essentially being able to build a whole new foundation.
And that is so important. I think there are so many people, I myself included, have been in that very situation. And you, I did a podcast a week or so ago with another phenomenal, he's now a coach, but he was the 18th ranked racquetball player, I think, in the world. And, just again, like yourself, just a phenomenal athlete and just outstanding person. And he said something similar. He had something tragic happen to him and he realized that he was here to do more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for whether it's, again, the hand of God or the
Yeah.
universe or whatever it is for every person. I love that. So can you, because I think this is so important, because I think this is so important. Can you take me back to like the next day or the next week or the next month? What are some of the call to actions that you took to say, okay, here I am, but I need to go in this direction now? What are some of the adjustments? Because I think that would be great advice for folks that are in that position that want to go in the right direction.
So the first few steps were for me were apologizing to people directly and speaking extremely candid, saying I did these things because of this. So essentially taking ownership of my actions and telling them directly why I did it, not as an excuse, but just so I could explain my behavior at that time. Not to say it's right or wrong, but again, to speak openly about it, to eliminate the guilt and shame and the power behind it. So from there, it was just about essentially being extremely transparent with everybody on everything up to that point, but also what my intentions were. Because the reality is, even if I did wake up a changed man, that doesn't mean people want you in their life, right? They still have their own healing and stuff to do. So really it was exactly like starting to date somebody new, starting to build a friendship with somebody new. That's what I had to do with myself. Rediscover myself, who I was before all this early on abandonment trauma happened. So that's things like rediscovering things I actually enjoy without worrying about if I look cool or not. Rediscovering what I like to do on a day-to-day schedule without trying to get attention on social media. So it's really, you just like go on this whole brand new journey and adventure of rediscovering this person that you are. And what I found was the person that I am now, when I came to this other side, is really the same person I was as a child. I enjoy all these great things, and I'm a great human if I'm not attached to the trauma. So the best way I can describe it is you start like dating yourself again. Like you just found a new buddy. Your new buddy just moved in next door. And you're just learning all kinds of things about him.
Yeah, that's so important, especially nowadays with the importance of, how many likes do I get
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
social impressions and all that. That's ultimately
Yeah.
so
So
important.
it really came back down to me to circle back to character, to rediscovering my character. Who am I when I don't have all the attention? Who am I when I don't have that support system?
That's a scary conversation to have with yourself sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, but once you've been to rock bottom, you're already, it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's, on the homepage of the Character Mill, that's why the headline is what defines who you are, because that's such an important conversation to have with yourself.
Yeah.
One thing though that I think is important is when you mentioned you were apologizing to people
Hmm.
and then you stated why you did it.
Hmm.
I think and that is going to ties into, of course, your word, but it takes ownership to do something. There's so many people that apologize and think that's enough. I love the fact that you took it to a whole nother level and then explained why you did it, because it was me.
I did it. Here's why. And you take ownership of it. I think that's such an important step.
Yeah. Well, it was part of my healing process because, at the end of the day, a lot of my lying and cheating came from my abandonment issues. So the reality was, yes, I loved my girlfriend, but the only thing I was more concerned with was never being abandoned again. So I always had something else lined up. So that also holds me accountable in my growth. So if I'm healing from my abandonment issues, then that type of behavior doesn't exist anymore because I'm not attached to that trauma. So it was part of my healing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Can you say that? Can you say that again?
Uh,
Because I think that's an important piece.
yeah. So like when for example, I cheated on you because I was so fearful of abandonment. So yes, I loved you, but I was more concerned with never being abandoned again. That was greater than my love for you, right? So that was the reason behind it. So that holds me accountable, right? Because as I start healing from this abandonment trauma, that means that behavior is no longer around because I've healed from the abandonment trauma. So I'm not worried about being abandoned anymore. So I have no reason to lie or cheat or be dishonest. So there's a level of accountability
And that accountability
on my end.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the quote or not quote or saying that says, if people are so concerned what other people think of them, that if they actually realized how little other people think about us,
Yeah.
we wouldn't worry about it too much.
We wouldn't worry about half as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, you hinted in there in that last little segment, your word of being ownership.
Yeah.
So dive into that, because I know, especially with the work that you're doing now, I think ownership is probably a big piece of that, and that's clearly a part that got you going in the right direction from that rock bottom into where you are now. So give us an idea of what does ownership mean to you and how it applies to your life, how it maybe applies to the work that you do with others.
Yeah. Yeah. Ownership is the foundation and the focal point of how I live life today. It's how I healed from rock bottom. It's how I healed from my trauma. It's the first step that I teach to all my clients, because when you have ownership of your life, when you take ownership of all the good stuff and all the bad stuff, that eliminates people's power over you. So again, when I have ownership of my life, even my crazy past, there's nothing anybody can say or do that's going to hurt me, because I've already taken ownership of it. That's why I'm so transparent on social media about my struggles from the past. Because once I acknowledge it, the shame and guilt goes away. The people's opinion don't affect me. But when we're trying to deal with things and saying, we're trying to hide from our mistakes, other people's actions and words dictate our feelings. And then our feelings from that dictate our actions. And we get stuck in this cycle because we're not taking ownership. And it's very hard for men to do that, especially men that kind of have it all together on the outside, whether they have a family, they have a successful business, but they're doing some damaging behavior behind their back. It's hard to step out and say, hey, I need to stop doing what I'm doing. So again, they keep piling on because there's so much guilt and shame they have to keep covering up. So when you have ownership, you're in the driver's seat of your life. Nobody else gets to dictate any aspect of your life, because the reality is every single morning you wake up, you're responsible for your choices, actions, behaviors, and thoughts and all that. And that's a much more powerful way to live instead of not taking ownership, because we're not responsible for what happens to us, but we're 100% responsible for how we respond to what happens to us. That's our responsibility. So when you have ownership, you just put yourself in 100% power of your life.
And that's important. When you talk about ownership, is ownership part of the decision-making process? The fact that I am going to have to to own what I'm doing, is that part of the decision-making process, or is it part of the process and maybe it's both? Is it part of the process that after something happens and maybe you made a mistake, wrong decision, bad decision, that's when you take ownership? It is a little bit of both. Does it help in the decision making?
I mean, yeah, when you make a decision, you have to take ownership of it. So again, if we use like my example, yes, I cheated, but now you take ownership of what you did, and you also take ownership of how you proceed from there. And what happens is people think they want to take ownership until they're not forgiven, or until, people are quick to apologize, like you said, but the moment you realize that that was a deal breaker, then they start, oh, well, she or they won't do A, B, or C. Now you've given power back to them.
That's a great point.
Ownership takes it. It takes work, and it can be what seems like a lonely process. But again, when you have ownership, you're able to create the life you want. But you can't. But you have to be willing to accept the consequences of your behavior.
Yeah, and I think you made a point earlier that what we can control is how we react to certain things that happen to us. A dear friend of mine, Chris Doris, had a great mantra that I literally say to myself every day, and it's very simple: just it ain't bad, just is.
Just is.
It's just how we
Right.
react to things, and it was what makes it
Yeah.
makes it bad. The other thing I love that you said was taking ownership of good things and bad things. It's really easy. It's certainly a task to take ownership of the bad things that you do.
Yeah.
But I bet at this point in your life, there brings a certain amount of pleasure to take ownership in the good things that you do. I think there's nothing wrong with having that long arm to reach back and pat yourself on the back every now and then when you do something right. So can you give us some examples of you taking ownership of some of the good stuff you've done? Because you do a lot of good stuff. And so I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I take ownership of the ability to help inspire others and show others that your past doesn't define you. That's the greatest thing that's come from my journey. So like, everything that I've went through and experienced essentially had to happen. So even what we perceive as my struggles and my bad things were actually all great things, because it got me to this point. I mean, I'm super fortunate to be able to work with people all over the world. And, there's a lot of therapists and doctors and psychologists and stuff, but there's only so many people that have been through it firsthand and came out the other side. And I know, like, for me, because I have my own life coach and mentor, like, those are the people I'm drawn to. I'm not interested in somebody that has like degrees. I'm interested in somebody who's walked the walk and came out the other side. That's who I connect to. And so that, I think that applies for everybody. Our journey happens for a reason. We all go through things not for the sake of, because that's what God wants us to go through, but for the sake of using our story to help others. And then that person improves and that person helps somebody else. Right. So like the good things that I'm take ownership of is the ability to help others change their lives. But what they do for others that I'll never even know about. And then it carries on way beyond anything that I can perceive. And a lot of my clients don't realize the magnitude of their transformation has on other people around them that I don't even know about. And it just continues on and on. And that's the whole point of why we're put on this earth, with a specific gift and purpose. So yeah, I take ownership of that.
Yeah, it's that ripple effect.
Yeah.
Even the smallest pebble in a smooth pond, those ripples just continue and go. Yeah, that's
so true.
Yeah, I think that's important. So can you talk a little bit about what you're doing now? Because we've taken you from rock bottom, and a rock bottom that was low. I mean, anytime you talk about suicide, that I've been there myself. That's a level of low that is tough to get out from. And you've owned it, and you're now doing things with that ownership and doing positive things. So share with the folks that are listening some of the things that you're doing with clients, because you mentioned clients. So share some of the things that you're doing with clients.
Yeah, man. On the number one, I'm working with men that were in my position again of being perceived that they're doing great and they have everything under control, but on the inside they're dealing with some darkness that they're not sure how to handle. I help them unpack it so they either stop with the behavior or they're able to acknowledge and take ownership of whatever past trauma that they have yet to deal with. And we unpack that and they start discovering, again, just like I was talking about, how it's all part of their journey and what the purpose behind all that is. And then I also help women all over the world essentially heal from trauma from their partner that maybe was creating some massive self-sabotage, and help them understand what their role in that specific time period is with that partner, but also help them rediscover themselves. Because usually the partner that's creating self-sabotage and creating the trauma, the other person loses themselves trying to deal with that. So really, I help men and women rediscover their purpose and do the same thing I did, which was connect to that child before all the trauma started piling on, and they start rediscovering themselves and figuring out what they actually like, who they are as a person, what their purpose and gift is, and then they start applying it. And when they start applying it in their day-to-day life, they start creating that new reality that they get to live in.
Yeah, I bet that I applaud you for the work, because especially with men and
Mhm.
ladies, I'm not I'm not pushing you to the side by any stretch,
Yeah.
but to
Yeah.
get men especially to talk about how they feel and some of the struggles that they're going with, that's not the easiest task in the world sometimes.
No, it's not, because if I reflect back to myself when I was really dealing with those things, if I would have went to anybody and said, "Hey man, I'm struggling," I know people would have been like, "What do you have to struggle? What are you struggling about? You have a great life. You're in great shape. You have all these things." And that would have just made me feel even more embarrassed. So I know it's very hard for men to reach out, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm so transparent and upfront about my journey, so that men can see it and hopefully feel some kind of connection, and then feel like, the more they understand about me, the more they'll be willing to reach out for help. Because I still get, and I hate to see it, but I still see messages in my Facebook of guys that send a message reaching out for help, and then before I can respond, they unsend it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I know it's hard as a man, and that's why I tried to create the Newborn Blueprint platform where a man can go and just get help and healing that he needs without worrying about being criticized of what their behavior is. There's enough of that to go around. I'm interested in the healing.
It is the most powerful thing you can do, is to say,
Yeah.
I need help.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, that's what I advocate again. Because the last thing, obviously, I want would anybody to go as far down the hole as I went. And there's not a lot of places that I found where you can just say, I need help, and they're interested in the healing instead of focusing on the behaviors. Like I'll listen to their mistakes and their downfalls once, and then from there on out, we're only focused on moving forward. That's it.
Awesome. So anyone that's listening, I will be sure to include all of Derek's contact information in the show notes. And I encourage you, if you are feeling that way, just reach out, start a conversation. As you can tell, he's one of the easiest son of bitches in the world to speak with. He's he's super easy, and the story is certainly relatable in a lot of different ways. So yeah, if you're listening and you are in that position, please make
Yeah,
that
just
phone call,
shoot a message.
send that text, make the email, whatever it takes.
Yeah, 100%.
That's fantastic. All right, so part of the mill, and you've said it a couple times about finding out who you are and defining who you are is such an important piece. And again, with the mill, it's our focus or our belief that adventure is a great way.
Oh,
Or as some people will look at it, maybe getting outside of your comfort zone a little bit is a fantastic way to help define who you are. When you experience something that may be a little uncomfortable, maybe a little awkward, maybe new, and then you take the time to go, wow, that made me feel like this. You start to learn more about yourself, and when we do that, man, the world is just going to be a whole lot better.
I agree.
When we all begin to understand, because I think innately we are all human beings full of love and empathy and kindness. It's when, like you said, when we can get some of those outside influences out of our way and we take ownership, then I think that's when good things do occur. So how do you define adventure? And do you have any adventures that stick out in your mind that, wow, that adventure shaped me? That was a powerful part of my life, or any adventures coming up for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, adventure is all about experience. So the great thing about an adventure, either way you learn something. You might learn it's something you don't enjoy, but either way you get more awareness of yourself. So there's really no downfall. And like I do a lot of traveling and go on a lot of adventures all over and do a lot of things for that exact reason. And just experiencing life to just learn about myself. So the more adventures you can go on, because again, especially guys, we like to stay in our little box and say, this is not for me. I don't enjoy that. And what I've learned is like, I've gone, part of my adventures have been going to like healing retreats, going to all these classes and stuff all over, just learning about how to heal and how to transform and all that stuff. And half of my adventures, I went with the expectation I'm going to learn A, B, or C. And I end up learning something completely different, or meeting somebody like in the airport or at a gas station that completely transforms my thoughts or my lives. So the more you can experience life, the better man you're going to be. So any adventure in any way, shape, or form, even if it's a virtual adventure, take full advantage, because there's really no downside, because you always learn something about yourself. So adventures, when it comes to me, like I'm moving from my hometown that I've been in for 40 years. I'm moving 3 hours away to a new part of Florida for the first time in my life. But I go all over the country, to the mountains, to the deserts, to the beaches, all kinds of events, concerts, all that stuff, just to experience life. Because at the end of the day, the end result's all the same for us. We're all going to go to we're not going to be here forever. So again, you have this gift of existing in this world. Maximize it by experiencing as much of it as possible through adventure, trying new things, meeting new people. You'll be a better man for it.
Yeah, there was just so many tidbits in that last section, man. That if you're listening, go hit rewind and go back a couple minutes and listen to that again. There were so many important pieces to that. The first thing I think that you hit on that hit me was adventure can be just growth, just personal growth, just learning something about yourself, or going on a retreat or that type of thing. And you also hit on that an adventure can happen at any time. And that's something we talk about, that every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, there is an opportunity for an adventure and an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
So be open to all of those. So yeah, there's so much in that last little bit.
If I can share one thing about the adventure. So like, it didn't become polarizing to me about how critical adventure is until part of my journey, I spent some time in a mental hospital when I was in my dark time. And when you're in there, you don't have the ability to choose of when you wake up, when you eat. You don't have the ability to watch TV. You don't have the ability to listen to music. You don't have the ability to go outside. So again, adventure is the moment you wake up. Life is an adventure because not everybody has those choices, right? So you can be feeling just terrible and really struggling, but you have the choice to go outside and stand on the grass in your bare feet, or feel the cold air on your face, or feel the sunshine, or go jogging until you're out of breath. Those are adventures that not every person gets to experience.
And man, there is no better way to end with that right there.
Yeah.
Like that, adventure can be literally that simple.
Mhm.
Just closing your eyes and feeling the warmth of the sun, or
Yeah.
being grateful that you get to stand up and be vertical
Yeah, 100%.
to charge into the day. So that's so important. Derek, thanks, man. This was spectacular. I'll be sure to include all the notes. Again, just a quick recap that if you are that person that feels like you just need a little something, little someone to talk to, and maybe take that step towards ownership, I encourage you to reach out to Derek. I'll include all the information in there for him. Be sure to follow him on all the social stuff because he's constantly posting bits of information and thoughts that make your day a little bit better. So, Derek, man, I appreciate your time today and joining us on Character Talks.
Thank you, man. I really appreciated you having me. It was a great talk.
And a very special thank you to Derek for being a guest on this episode, and thank you to you for tuning into this powerful episode of Character Talks. Today, we had the privilege of hearing from Derek Newborn, a remarkable fitness professional who shared his deeply personal journey. Derek opened up about the stark contrast between his seemingly perfect exterior as a successful fitness trainer and the inner turmoil he faced, grappling with feelings of abandonment and narcissism. He candidly recounted how self-sabotage led him to a brink of despair, culminating in a harrowing experience with attempted suicide. Derek's story is a profound testament to the human spirit resilience. By taking ownership of his life and confronting his demons, Derek has redefined his character and found a renewed sense of purpose. Today, he stands as a beacon of hope and inspiration, not only as a fitness coach, but also as a leader in the fitness industry, dedicated to helping others achieve their best selves. As we conclude this episode, we invite you to reflect on Derek's journey and consider your own path. Are you living a life true to your values and potential? If not, now is the time to take ownership of your adventures and make a change. We also want to extend an invitation to join us on The Mill, our new global adventure community. The Mill is dedicated to inspiring people to embrace a life of adventure, helping you to eliminate regrets and live fully. Together, we can support each other in our journeys, just as Derek has inspired us to do. Thank you for being a part of Character Talks. Stay tuned for more stories of transformation and empowerment. And until next time, live boldly and with purpose.